Hello, everybody. Welcome to an all new episode of the DTI Takeover show here on Total Praise Radio. I am your girl, Miss Kayla. So, y'all know what I'm here to do. I am here to spotlight another awesome individual, another awesome entrepreneur out here in the city who's doing wonderful things, you all. I have with me today Miss Valerie, author or authoress, however you like to put it. Valerie Wade here. She is the owner of V Diane Enterprises. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I am great. I am great. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So before we get into all of your projects, all of your books, let everybody know just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I was born in Detroit, raised in Highland Park. I'm mother of three daughters. I have three grandsons. By day, my daytime job, I'm a research administrator. I work for Wayne State University and Carmine's Cancer Institute. And I'm a research administrator, as a person who assists the faculty with doing the budgets and the applications to get grant applications to do research. So it just happens to be cancer research. So I've been doing that for 30 plus years, and I'm looking forward to retirement next year.
I'm not mad at it. But it sounds like you've done your job. It sounds like you have
Yes, I'm
fulfilled
ready.
what you were supposed to do in
I'm
30
ready.
years. So that's amazing.
Yes,
That's
yes.
amazing. So, Miss Valerie, have you always been a writer?
Well, from a as a teenager, I used to write during the summertime, and I had a friend that would read. Back then, there was the old, manual typewriters, and I during the summer, being bored, I just started, making up stories. My friend, entertained my friend. She would read my stories, and she thought they were pretty good. But then years went by, and I didn't write anything, and I started writing poetry. Like maybe in my 40s, I started writing poetry, and then getting into writing happened like during the late like 2009 when I went back to school to finish my degree.
Okay, okay. So, how did you go from poetry now to just your full on books?
Well, I always wanted to take creative writing, so I wound up in my last semester at Wayne. I took an imaginative writing course, and it was just like a creative writing course, and so you had to every assignment was writing.
Mhm.
Um, and so the book came together after I wrote. One of the assignments was to take a photograph and write a story about it. And so my second book came out of that story. But then Ivy Lee's Rule was kind of a story that surrounded that story. So it got released before the first story. But it was all based on a photograph, and this character is in both books, and she just kind of was born out of the book, but was inspired by my grandmother story. It's about a Christian woman going through mental illness, and my grandmother had that challenge.
I understand because I was actually my next question was to
Mhm.
let us know a little bit about Ivy Lee's rule.
Okay, so Ivy Lee is a deaconess in the church. She sings. She's very joyous. Her husband is very loving. She doesn't have any children, but she has a sister that's kind of overbearing, but they're close. And she moves from uh, North Carolina to Detroit, along with family members. The patriarch of the family member in my second book wanted to come to Detroit, and so she joins them. But throughout her life, became sparks of mental health challenges. It started in her childhood, and it came all the way through her adulthood. But she had a
Mhm.
loving husband that supported her, and family that supported her. So she worked through those challenges.
Awesome. So, what are you hoping your readers learn or they take away from your book?
I think that there's hope. Even people who go through those mental health challenges, that she still participated in the church. She was close to her nephew. Her husband was loving. She was in and out of the hospital, but she still every time try to get better. So I think it's just hope and having empathy for people who are going through those mental health challenges.
And it sounds like you're kind of also in a way bringing awareness to mental health. Period.
Right. Right. Because it can happen to anybody. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows someone in their family or friend that has gone through that. And and it can happen to anyone.
Absolutely. Okay, so now I did see that you had another book called Leaving Jacksonville.
Okay, and that Leaving Jacksonville was a story that was assignment in the class. I looked through magazines and found the photograph, and so the photograph was this was probably in the maybe 40s, 50s, or the time period is kind of murky, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a car packed up. You could tell it was from the Great Migration. A family was moving from the South to Detroit. So um, later on, I found a caption for the photograph that said it was from Jacksonville. So that's where Leaving Jacksonville came from. So the main character is a little boy who is the story opens at his baptism. He's about 10 years old. He has a grandfather who has family in Detroit, who all his life he's wanted to leave the South and come to Detroit. Um, so, uh, so leaving Jacksonville, it's basically most of it is the story of them getting to Detroit and what happens along the way, and then when they get to Detroit. And so it's the little boy that's coming, his mother and father. Um, their cousins, and then the grandfather whose his dream has been to get to his brother in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. What would you say would be your inspiration and your motivation behind all of your pieces?
I guess just that, I like to read, and so just to get a good story out there. And then I think people can relate because the Papa Joe is the main character who's the one that wanted to get to Detroit. He'll remind people of their grandfathers and their uncles and somebody who had a dream and wanted you to follow them. And then little Charles, just an excited little boy, you know, looking forward to coming to Detroit. He's been in Florida. He wants to see the snow. So I think the characters are relatable.
Yeah, they want to see this. I mean, I
We
guess
wa
I can
Yeah,
see
I guess
it.
if you haven't been in snow,
Yeah,
you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
exactly. Until you know, then
Right,
you wait a minute. I
right,
just think this.
right, right.
That's amazing. So, what
Yeah.
other projects do you have out there?
Okay, so me and my sisters and my nieces just published an anthology of short stories and poetry. So it contains I have a few about 10 poems in there. My sister has some poems, and I think I have one short story. And then my nieces have some poetry in there. And then one of my nieces compiled it all. She organized it all. Came up with the themes and everything. And we even found a poem that my late mother wrote, and we included that. And so a couple point,
Oh,
so
wow.
there's a couple poems written about my grandfather and just all kinds of things. There's like I wrote one called Palpable. It was kind of during the George Floyd time, how palpable the pain was and how, what the nation was going through. There's love poems, there's activist poems. So there's all kind of poems and stories.
I love that. It sounds very sentimental.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
called
Seeing this
it's
now.
called the A Writer's Cove, um, the Night Owls Collective. So where that title came from is during the pandemic, me and my sisters on the app Group Me, somebody would start a story and the other person would finish it, and so we call ourselves the Night Owls. So we just kept that title for the book. So we made it volume one. So we're going to try to put together more because other family members want to get in on it.
I
That
was
are
just saying,
writers.
the creative writing goes through the
Yes.
DNA.
Yes. Yeah, because my grandfather used to tell stories. He used to like to record stories. He was
Oh
from
wow.
Trinidad, and he would record stories about what happened when he was a young boy in Trinidad.
So do you still have those recordings?
I think my sister does. Yep, she probably would have to have them remastered or something, but I think she does have some of his recordings.
That is amazing. So what's next for you?
Um, just write it. I've got the beginnings of some other stories. I don't do as much poetry, but what I was trying to do is have, since I do a little poetry, is any book that I write, I want to have one poem in it. Like Ivy Lee's Rue has a poem called Lilac Tree that I wrote some time ago. That's also in the anthology book, but it's in there. So I was working on a story since I've worked in the academic setting with faculty for many years. So this would be something in that research setting. So
Okay.
that's the next thing. And just, once I retire, I'll have more time to focus on writing.
Right. So are you just solely focused on writing? Are you a publisher as well?
Yeah, well, that anthology, I published that one, but
Okay.
that's probably I won't expand that, probably just for these small family projects. Yeah, because that was overwhelming.
I got you.
Try to yeah, to coordinate it all, and, we were working towards a deadline. We had an event we were trying to meet, so we had to finish it, get it
Mhm.
printed, and have the product ready, so we made it, but it was stressful.
You said like never again.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
Miss Valerie, as a experienced writer, right? What do you say to the next up and coming author who has all the ideas, right? Is ready to put pen to paper, but just doesn't necessarily know where to start. What's your piece of advice?
I would say just keep writing, because I like when I wrote Ivy Lee's Rue, I would write chapters that didn't go together, weren't in the order that they were going to be in the book, but I just wrote something, and then once I was ready to put it all together, then I put it in order. So if you have some thoughts, keep a pad by your bedside and just start writing. Write your ideas down because it could turn into something. And a friend of mine in leaving Jacksonville, she told me, well, what about when they left Jacksonville? She said, well, what about the character, the family they left behind? And so there's a chapter in there where there's a best friend of the woman who's leaving Jacksonville, how she felt her best
Mhm.
friend from childhood is leaving, and how her child was best friend to little Charles, a person, how they felt after they left. So I mean, you take your ideas from everything, and I would say just keep writing because you start doubting yourself,
Yeah,
like but you just have to put it out there and just I would have never thought that I would have been able to do this and join. And the one thing that really pushed me is to join a writers group. So I was part of
okay.
Motown Writers, and they were meeting like once a month at the library. And so these are people, like-minded people who are trying to do the same thing. And so I would see other people in the group self-publish their books, and finally I'm one of them. And then
That's great.
yeah, and then there was another group called Pen and Tablet Writers, and we would meet
Mhm.
once a month for 2 hours. And so the first hour we would talk about what we were working on. In the second hour we would actually write, and in the last 10 minutes come back and talk about what we wrote. And so that pushed me, because if I didn't write any other time, I
Well,
knew
then,
I was writing during that block of time. Yeah, so I think join the writers group, and there's plenty of them out here for different genres that you want to be in.
I got. So, have you ever thought about writing like a story about yourself, about your life?
I have, it's kind of daunting to put yourself out there, but I've thought about it. I may.
May I mean,
Yeah, I may, once I get over that fear, because you really have to put yourself out there when you do that. I mean, I thought about it because I was a really, really shy child, and it
mm-hmm.
kinda when you're shy like that, you miss out on things,
Yeah,
and looking back, you see how it hampered you, and I know there's people out here going through the same thing, so I thought, maybe I could write something from that angle, so there may be something.
and
Yeah,
inspire us.
yeah,
We
yeah,
love to
yeah,
read it. Just saying,
right,
put it out there.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, how can people purchase your books?
Okay, the best place to get an autograph copy is from Valerie Wade online.com. That's directly to my website. I'll sign it for you and mail it out to you. People just want it really fast. They can get it on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Nobles, and all three books are in both places.
Amazing. All right. And how can people follow you on social media, stay in contact with you?
Okay, I'm on Instagram as Valerie D. Wade. I'm on Facebook as author Valerie D. Wade. I'm on TikTok, but I don't really post on there. But really, Facebook and Instagram are the places you can find me.
All right, y'all. Y'all heard it here first on Total Praise Radio. Thank you, Miss Valerie, for
You're
being
welcome. Thanks for
with
having
us
me. Keep
today.
writing.
So, look, I'm interested. It's piqued my interest, but I'm
Yeah,
like, am I going to be good at it? What do I say?
keep writing.
Keep right.
The professor that the one more thing I will say, the professor that I had in that class, he was a playwright, and he would always sign, and he would write books, and he would sign and put "write on." So I always think about that. So just keep writing, write on.
Right on. Y'all heard it here first on Total Praise Radio. You guys make sure you continue to follow us on Total Praise Radio at Total Praise Radio on Facebook. Join the group. Join Total Praise Radio group on Facebook as well. Listen to the station. Go to our website, www.totalentradio.com. Hit the Total Praise Radio button. Let us know what you think. Until next time, everybody, I am your host, Miss Kayla, And we're signing out. Peace out. Thank you so much.